If you are an agency or a freelancer who regularly implements server-side Google Tag Manager for clients, you probably have noticed the repetitive work. Create this tag, then create another tag, and eventually this accumulates to hours of manual work. So if most of your setups are pretty similar and you want to save some time, I think you'll like Stape Setup Assistant. Let me show you how it works. Before we continue, first let's take a look at some of the requirements or things that you should have before starting working with this tutorial. So I have a demo website. On this website, I have installed a Google Tag Manager web container, but this container is empty. Also, I have a server Google Tag Manager container, which is also empty. This container is hosted on Stape. But since we are going to use Stape's Setup Assistant, it kind of makes sense. And I mean, it's one of the requirements that if you want to use that assistant, you have to use Stape as your hosting provider. This website right here is a WordPress website. So I have actually installed a Google Tag Manager server-side plugin, which is developed by Stape. So this plugin handles the installation of my web container. And also I have configured some stuff related to server container. If you have no idea how to install server-side Google Tag Manager, then I will post a link to a tutorial below this video. Even if you're not using WordPress, maybe you're using something else, this tutorial is still very relevant. So follow those steps to install server-side GTM and web GTM on your website. So once you have done all of this, then let's proceed with this tutorial. On this demo website, I will be installing Google Analytics 4 and Facebook Pixel with Facebook Conversions API. Also, one more thing to note is that in this tutorial, I am using Cookie.yes as a consent management platform, and this is one of the more popular ones. Therefore, Stape's Setup Assistant will also help me handle that part as well. So here I am in my Stape account. This is my container that I will be using. Then go to SGTM and click Setup Assistant. Here you will have to select the type of your website, whether it's e-commerce or lead generation. Maybe in the future they will add more types. This is important because based on these options, certain tags or events will be created in your container. Let's say that I'm working with e-commerce, then the platform. So if you're using something custom, select other. Since I'm using WordPress, I will select WooCommerce right here because on my WordPress website, I am using WooCommerce. Then we need to select whether we want to configure something related to consent. Since I am using Cookie.yes pop-up right here, I will select Cookie.yes right here and then click Next. Then I have to select what kind of vendors or platforms do I want to install in my Google Tag Manager. Here you will see the most popular ones. As I've said, I will be working with Google Analytics 4 and Meta. Let's disable Google Ads for now and then click Next. Then I will be asked to enter some information about my server container URL, my Meta Pixel information, Google Analytics information, and so on. So let's do that. So let's enter the server container URL. In my case, it looks like this. In your case, it might be different. For example, if you're working with Shopify, then this kind of path in the server container URL will not be supported. So you probably will have something like some subdomain.yourdomain.com. Then I have measurement ID. So I can find that in Google Analytics. Let's go to admin, then data streams, select website data stream, measurement ID, copy that one, then paste it right here. Then I have to enter Meta Pixel ID. So let's go to Facebook Events Manager. And then here I have that ID. I can also click settings and find that dataset ID, also known as Pixel ID right here. So I can just click it, then go back here, paste it. Then I'm asked to enter the Facebook Conversions API token that can also be found in the Events Manager. So just scroll down in the settings of your Pixel and then keep looking for something mentioning Conversions API and token. And here it is, Generate Access Token. I will click that one. Then maybe I will just keep this one and then Generate Access Token. And once I get it, I copy and I will paste it right here. Of course, this is my test token, so later I will generate another one. This is just for this video, and then click Next. Then step number 4. I'm asked, how do I want to add these configurations, these tags, to my container? And you have two options. Either you import them automatically, but it means that you will need to give Stape access to your Google account, but just with very limited permissions, or you can import them manually. Both options will work fine. So let me quickly show you the manual option, and then I will switch to the automatic import. So when you click here and click Next, then you will get two files. One is for the web Google Tag Manager container, and the other one is for the server Google Tag Manager container. You will need to download both, and then first go to the web container, then go to admin, then import container and import the web file, and then do the same thing for the server container. You will need to go to admin, and then import container, upload the file, follow the steps, and complete. But let me go back now, and if I click back to edit, I will go to automatically import templates for my container, and then click next, then select the account, then click continue, then give these permissions. As you can see, these permissions are related mainly to Google Tag Manager, not to everything, and then click continue right here. Once you have given permissions to Stape to access your Google account, you will need to select the web account, container, and workspace, and the same for the server container. So let's first select the web account. And in fact, I don't remember this, so let me just check. GTM Demo Analytics Mania. This looks quite generic, and here it is. And then select the container. In my case, this is the web container, and then this is the workspace. If you have multiple workspaces, then select that one which seems the most appropriate to you. I will select the default one, and let's do the same thing for the server container. So it's the same account, then server container, and then default workspace. Then you click import templates. And now it tells me that the import is in progress. It's important that you should avoid engaging or changing or doing anything in that container until the import is completed. And this might take a while. So now I will pause the video and I will continue recording when this is done. By the way, I release Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager tutorials every week. If you want consistent flow of fresh knowledge and to stay up to date, then subscribe to this channel. It will help us a lot. All right, the import is complete. I also have received an email notification about this. For me, it took about 4 minutes, but in your case, it might take more because maybe you have decided to implement more pixels and platforms at once. But now let's take a look at what is configured in the server-side Google Tag Manager container and also in the web container. So in the server container, if I go to Workspace, I will see a lot of stuff created right here, various variables, tags. I also can see a bunch of things configured in the web container, and we can take a quick look at some of the tags. So if I go to tags, and let's say I click on the GA4 config tag, also known as Google tag. Here I have the constant variable that contains my measurement ID. I have the server container URL, and it also uses a variable. I can quickly go to variables and see the constant measurement ID right here. So first glance, this looks okay. Then let's take a quick look at the server container. I will see that data client is created. This is used to receive certain requests that will be used by Meta Conversions API. Then if I go to tags, I will see some of the tags created right here. If I go back to the web container, here I see some events, for example, add payment info Stape. The reason why Trigger is using this event is because I have installed Google Tag Manager on my WordPress and WooCommerce website with the Stape plugin. And these are the event names that the plugin pushes to the data layer. So this looks consistent. So now let's test if everything is working fine, because even though this seems good, we definitely need to verify this. So in the server container, click preview to enable the preview mode. And then let's go to the web container and also click preview and then connect. And the preview mode has connected. So let's take a look what we have here. We have several tags fired. For example, on initialization, our Google Analytics 4 tag fired. If we switch to values, we see that this is the measurement ID that we are using. This is where we are sending the request. And if I go to the preview mode of server container, I will see two requests. One is sent from a thing called data tag. So this will be picked up by the Facebook Conversions API tag. And then this one is related to Google Analytics. So if I click page view right here, I see that Meta tag fired. And on this tag, my Google Analytics tag fired. And this tag just forwarded the event to Google Analytics 4. Now, if I go to Google Analytics, and then in the admin, I go to data display, debug view. Here I don't see any events. And now I have just realized that I did not click I agree on the website to give consent. So here I will click accept all. And then maybe I will go to the next page. then I will see that page view request right here. Now, if I click on the outgoing request, so first I select the page view event with the collect part right here, then request and then outgoing request. Here I will be looking for a GCS parameter, which is part of the consent mode setup. And I see that it says G111, which means that analytics was given both for analytics and for marketing. So this particular page view should appear eventually in the debug view as well. And here are the events. I have multiple page views because while I was testing this, I refreshed the page multiple times. Now, if I click here, I can see the information and this seems correct. Now, when it comes to debugging Facebook's events, because when I am looking at the server container, so let me just quickly switch there. And if I click on this page view where the request contains the word data, I still see that the Facebook or Meta tag fired, and I see the outgoing request. So let's check whether that event was received by Facebook. To do that, you will need to go to the events manager of Facebook, then click test events. And here we have to enable the debugging mode, both for the website events and the server events. Let's start with the website events. So expand this, and then I will enter the URL of my sandbox website. So let's say this one, test events. All right, this is now loaded. And then I will expand the server events section and I will get the test event code. So I need to copy it. Then I will need to go to the server container, then open any meta tag, for example, page view. And here, if I start editing this particular tag, I see the test ID right here. So I should paste it right here. Or since we have a bunch of different Facebook Conversions API tags, maybe it would be a better idea to create a variable that will store the test event code. So let's create a new variable, which is constant, enter it like that, and then type const Facebook test code and hit save. Technically, I could do this for all tags, but now just to save some time in this tutorial, I will just set this ID in the page view event only. So click save, then click preview to refresh the preview mode. And now let's go to the website and I will hit reload. And then I see the event. First event is coming from the browser. We also have the event ID. So this was handled by the Stape Setup Assistant. And I also have an event with some delay from the server. Since their event IDs are identical, the server event was deduplicated. But as you can see, this is working fine. So if this was a real project, then I would go and test all the other steps of the e-commerce funnel. If you're working with the e-commerce business, this means that you would need to check add payment info, add to cart, then begin checkout, purchase, search, and view item. All of these events should be verified both in GA4 and Facebook Conversions API. If you have decided to install more platforms with a Stape Setup Assistant, then of course you will need to verify that as well. But as you can see, this saved me a lot of time, at least several hours of manual work. So this is a really neat feature that can help consultants work faster for their clients. By the way, did you know that I have a bunch of free ebooks on Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics? So if you want to better learn these topics, then click the link below the video, download those ebooks, and get started. One thing to note is that after you're done testing, don't forget to remove the test code, because this test code right here, or also known as test ID, it is designed only for debugging. So you should be sending that only when you're actually testing. For your live website visitor data, your request should not include it. So you can either manually delete the variable in this field, or you can have a more automated solution where you can create a lookup variable. That lookup variable could look at the preview mode. So there's a built-in variable that is called debug mode. So if it's true, then the lookup table variable could return the test ID, and in other cases, it could return undefined. But this goes a bit out of scope of this tutorial because the main focus is the assistant and how it works. So for the end of this video, I wanted to tackle several questions. So as you can see, this definitely saves a lot of time. But if you're wondering whether you should actually continue learning server-side Google Tag Manager or web Google Tag Manager, because maybe this knowledge becomes obsolete since this tool saved you a lot of time and did the work for you? Well, my answer to this question is no. This setup assistant can definitely save a lot of time, but it does not make your WebGTM or SGTM knowledge obsolete. Because imagine this. Let's say that you're working with some custom website, you use the setup assistant, it added all the tags, triggers, variables, but then at some point something is not working because maybe you're dealing with some edge case. If you don't have enough experience with Google Tag Manager, you will not know where to troubleshoot or how to fix that problem. That's where the true expertise becomes very useful. So while this assistant helps you save a lot of time, you still must have experience to verify and make sure that it is actually working. So I would say that Stape's Setup Assistant works best for those who are already experienced with Google Tag Manager. Do not blindly publish everything that the assistant creates. Even though it works well, there might be some edge cases in your situation where some data might not be captured correctly unless you troubleshoot that and fix it. So you still have to know and understand and learn the inner mechanics of how Google Tag Manager web and server-side is working. And that's the end of this tutorial. Hopefully, it will help you work with Google Tag Manager faster. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, then subscribe to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.